In 776 BC, the Greeks created a little event called the Olympics. Now, many of you are probably excited to hear thrilling tales of the first Olympic game of pickleball, or perhaps underwater basket weaving, maybe 400 different events of swimming. Unfortunately, none of these existed back then. You see, in the early days of the Olympics, it was basically just UFC. Every single event was either wrestling, MMA, or just a ritual sacrifice. Fast forward to the year 2024, and we see the introduction of Olympic rock climbing. That's right, I am officially denying the existence of the 2020 rock climbing Olympics. It never happened. So in preparation of the 2024 Olympics and the debut of real Olympic rock climbing, we're going to take a look at what to expect for the Olympics, as well as who's qualified, who's in, and who's out.
What about my generous proposal? Are you in or are you out?
It's you who's out, Gabi.
So the process for qualifying for the Olympics is actually kind of complicated, but to simplify it, you basically have 20 slots available for men and for women. And the first 3 guaranteed slots for the Olympics were given way back in 2023 in the Rock Climbing World Championship. So I'm going to quickly recap the qualifiers and just kind of talk about how all 20 of these slots get filled. If you're not interested in that and you just want to cut to the actual Olympics and what's going to happen there, I'll put a timestamp in. So starting off with the Men's World Championship, we saw a really close race for first place in bouldering between Jakob Schubert and Tomoa Narasaki. Both of them topped all 4 boulders, which is pretty uncommon. That does not happen a lot. These two were as close to tying as you can actually get. They were one attempt away from tying each other. And I think one thing that's important to remember here is that Jakob Schubert is primarily a sport climber, right? He was the only one that topped the lead wall in the last Olympics, beating Adam Ondra. And most of the time when we look at comp climbing, climbers are either primarily a boulderer or a sport climber. And if they are a sport climber, that means theoretically their weakness is bouldering. But the thing with Jakob Schubert is the man has no weaknesses. Jakob Schubert and Tomoa Narasaki absolutely steamrolled the bouldering in the World Championships. As you can see right here, I'm just going to bounce around here for a minute so I don't get copyright striked. But it was pretty crazy. Now, the most important part of this World Championship was actually the lead route, because there was a move where you had to put a heel hook in so you could clip, but you had to then take the heel hook out to do a campus move. And if you tried to leave the heel hook in and do the move instead of campusing it, you were pretty much guaranteed to fall off. This move single-handedly took out 3 of the competitors, one of them being Adam Ondra.
I think we'll see him take the clip from this position potentially, and I also think he'll have the reach.
He falls. He was reaching up and he goes down.
And this led to Adam Ondra not qualifying for the Olympics, and instead our qualifiers being Jakob Schubert, Colin Duffy, and Tomoa Narasaki. In the Women's World Championship, we saw the same thing we see time and time again. Janja Garnbret took a commanding lead in bouldering and also in the lead climbing, easily securing herself a slot in the Olympics. Now, besides Janja taking first place, we saw a bit of a tight race between Brooke Rabatou and Jessica Pills in the bouldering, but Jessica Pills was able to pull ahead in the lead section, taking second place and securing an Olympic slot. And surprisingly, Aya Mori was able to do well enough on lead despite her poor performance in bouldering, and was able to take the 3rd slot for the Olympics. Now, with 3 slots filled for the men's and the women's, we still have 17 slots per gender that need to be filled, and there's a variety of different ways that they find who qualifies for the Olympics and each of these other 17 available slots. And to ensure that athletes are represented from all around the world, one of these ways is having qualifiers where one athlete from each major continental area can win and represent that area. Now, I'm going to be honest, some of these were really hard to watch. they were not the most impressive display of competition climbing, but that being said, I'm just going to read through them really quick because they're not that interesting. So I'll just tell you who got these slots. In the 2023 Pan American Games representing the Americas, for the men's, we have Jesse Grouper, and for the women's, Natalia Grossman. In the 2023 European qualifier representing Europe, we have Toby Roberts for the men and Oriane Bertone for the women. In the 2023 Asian qualifier representing Asia, we have Sorado Anraku, I think that's how you say that, for the men, and Zhang Yuotong representing the women. In the 2023 Oceania qualifier, we have Campbell Harrison of Australia for the men, and Oceana McKenzie, I think that's how you say that, for the women. And lastly, the 2023 African qualifier, we have Mel Jans van Rensburg for the men's, and Lauren Muckbeer for the women's. With these 8 slots filled for the men's and the women's, we now have 12 slots remaining in the final event, the last chance to qualify for the Olympics, the Olympic Qualifier Series. Now, I do not understand what the fuck goes on in the Olympic qualifier series. It makes no sense. Basically, there's like 20 competitors and the top 12 all get slots in the Olympics, but
if the host country, being France, doesn't have a competitor already, they are guaranteed one, so then only the top 11 make it, but France did already have people qualify, so that doesn't really matter. And also, there's only 8 people competing, so I don't know how they determine the top 12. Like, 4 of the people in the top 12 didn't even compete in the qualifier series. They were just kind of like already given a slot. I don't understand how it works.
But we're going to get into it anyway. So the first thing we're going to talk about with the Olympic qualifier series is the bouldering, and I got to say, the route setters were definitely feeling strong that day. These boulders were ridiculously hard. There were 42 potential tops, 8 competitors, 4 boulders each, and we saw 4 tops, 12.5%. For those of you that don't know if that's normal or not, imagine watching a competition where you have to watch 42 people attempt boulders and only 4 of them top it. It's boring as shit.
Stop there. That's really well done. He was just swinging once, not a lot of swing. He also didn't need a lot of swing. Really impressive method from him there.
Also, it was nice to see Alexander Magos make an appearance, right? Showing some interest in competition climbing, something he's historically not really participated in. And as usual, he was walking around like he just doesn't give a fuck.
He's feeling pretty relaxed out there as well. Smile on his face.
And like I said before, there were only 4 boulder tops total, and they were all topped by different athletes. So we had 4 athletes who topped a single boulder. One of them was Adam Ondra, but another one was this guy named Hannes van Duysen. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. And I've never heard of this dude before, but his top was pretty epic.
High right foot to kick him in. Please match, please match. Yes, there we go.
I'm also nervous all the time. He's looking at the crowd.
So the bouldering section was pretty uneventful, but the lead was equally as uneventful. Everyone got to like the same general area. It was pretty hard to tell like who was winning and who's doing bad. Basically, the 4 guys who topped boulders all qualified just for topping a boulder. I'll just read you the list. So our official Olympic qualifiers from the qualifier series are Lee Do-hyun from Korea, Sam Avezu from France, Adam Ondra from Czech Republic, Alberto Hines Lopez from Spain. He was the previous gold medalist in the last Olympics, so that's kind of important. Hannes van Duysen, my guy from Belgium, I think. Paul Jenft from France. Yannick Flo from Germany. Hamish MacArthur from Great Britain. Motherfucker has the most British name I've ever heard in my entire life. Sasha Lehmann from, is that Switzerland? SUI? Why would Switzerland be SUI? Wouldn't it be like SWI? Doesn't matter. Alexander Magos from Germany, Luka Potokar from Slovenia, and Pan Yufei from China. Now for the women's Olympic qualifier series, we saw a pretty big gap. It was pretty hit or miss. There were 4 competitors who were leaps and bounds above everybody else. And obviously anything can happen in the actual Olympic Games, but this did kind of foreshadow a bit who the main competitors in the Olympics were going to be. And I think the most impactful thing in the women's Olympic qualifier series was the bouldering section. Miho Nanaka topped all 4 boulders, which, like I said about the men's, is extremely uncommon. This pretty much guaranteed her a spot in the Olympics. And in the lead wall, we saw a little bit more separation than we did in the men's, but it was still pretty uneventful. So our list of the women's qualifiers for the Olympics is Brooke Rabitou from the USA, Miho Nanaka of Japan, Erin McNeese of Great Britain, Seo Chae-hyun from Korea, Luo Zilu, I have no idea how to say that, from China, Yenya Kazbekova from Ukraine, Mia Krampel from Slovenia, Luca Dorfel from Germany. I don't think that's how you say it. Lucia Dorfel, Zelia Avizo from France, Camilla Morani of Italy, Laura Rogora from Italy, and Molly Thompson-Smith from Great Britain. I feel like the majority of the entertainment value of this video is just going to be me mispronouncing all these names. So here's the actual list of all 40 athletes going to the Olympics, confirmed. There's no more qualifiers, it's set in stone. These are the athletes going to the Olympics. And next I want to talk about kind of how the Olympics work, because if you look it up, there's no information. I had to find the actual PDF document from the Olympic Committee that they use to communicate amongst each other and like their official rules, because there's not a single website that talks about it. But basically it works a little like this. The Rock Climbing Olympics will take place on August 5th all the way through August 10th. There is a quarterfinals, a semifinals, and a finals. I have no idea what the fuck the quarterfinals are for, but I guess somewhere along the way, when we get to the finals, there will be 8 athletes for men's and for women's. And another important thing to talk about that I didn't know before, I guess you can only have 2 athletes per event in the Olympics from the same country. And because Paul Jenft qualified in the qualifier series, Mejdi Schlack got schlacked out of the competition. He got knocked right out. So Mejdi actually did qualify for the Olympics, but because there were already 2 French male climbers, he got shellacked. Now I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the actual Olympics, the finals, who I predict is going to make it to the finals and who I think is going to win gold, silver, and bronze. I am a huge fan of competition rock climbing, and I would be shocked. I refuse to believe that my predictions are incorrect. In 8th place qualifying for the men's finals in the Olympics, we have Lee Do-hyun of Korea. I think that he is a pretty dangerous competitor. I think that he can knock the other 12 out and make it to the finals. I don't think he stands any chance of making podium because he's a bit inconsistent. He's not really a consistent threat in bouldering or lead, in my opinion, but I do think he'll make the finals. In 7th place qualifying for the men's, we have Toby Roberts. I know a lot of people are going to think it's kind of low. Toby's a bit of a wild card, all right? Toby could take 1st place. He could not qualify at all. I have no idea. I don't really know how to place Toby, but I do think he'll make it in the actual finals. I think Team Britain's got a pretty strong roster, but like I said, bit of a wild card. In 6th place qualifying for the finals, we have Sam Avizu. I don't know how to say his name. He's the guy who schlacked Mejdi, all right? He's the schlacker. I do think Sam will make it to the finals and place somewhere in the middle. He's pretty consistently good at bouldering and at lead climbing, but I'm not thinking he's making the podium. I gotta say, I think the competition is a little too consistent at the higher end. I think that the guys at the top they're not going to do bad at bouldering or lead. They don't do bad at bouldering or lead. So I think that means that Sam, I don't think it's likely that he's making the podium. Coming in 5th place in the Olympics, my prediction is Serato Unraku. You're going to see this as a reoccurring theme, but the people that I think are going to make it to the top are the people that can consistently get points in bouldering and lead. There's a lot of competitors who can score a lot of points in one category, but not the other one, and I don't think that those competitors really stand a chance at making the podium. They might make the finals, but then they'll just be, in 7th or 8th place. Next up, I predict that Colin Duffy will actually take 4th place in the Olympics, which I know is a bit of a shocker because I think he got like 7th last time, but he did make the finals last time, so it's not that crazy of a prediction that he'll make the finals again, but I do think he stands a chance at getting at least 2nd or 3rd place. I think he'll probably come around 4th. I don't know if he'll quite make the podium just because he is a double threat and he can score a lot of points in both categories, but he's very inconsistent. I think Colin Duffy's inconsistency does not give me enough confidence to secure him a podium place. Now for our podium placers, my prediction for 3rd place, our bronze medalist, is Tomoa Narasaki. I think Tomoa is 100% going to win bouldering. Tomoa wins bouldering every time. He's going to take 1st in bouldering and do the same thing he does every time. He's going to fall behind in lead, but because of the giant lead he built up in bouldering, he'll still make the podium. I think he probably scores low in the pack in lead, but because of his 1st place in bouldering, he's still going to make podium. I don't think, though, that he really stands a chance at getting in the top 2 slots unless he can put a extremely strong lead on the bouldering wall. The big if factor here for how well Tomoa will do is how ridiculous the route setters get with setting in the bouldering section, because they could set the wildest shit. Tomoa's going to do it. Now, for 2nd place, our silver medalist is my most controversial pick, Adam Ondra. Now, the reason I think that Adam Ondra is a controversial pick is because there's basically 2 camps. There's the Adam Ondra will always win camp, he's the best of all time and he's going to take 1st place, and the anybody who's been watching Adam Ondra since the last Olympics in competitions has seen he's kind of fallen off a little bit. He hasn't been doing as well, right? He didn't place in the World Championships. He's had a few slip-ups here and there. Now, I personally believe he's fucking Adam Ondra. So if anybody can just come out and take 1st or 2nd place in the Olympics, it's Adam Ondra. And it does seem like the headspace that Adam's in is a huge determining factor of how well he'll do. I put on my psychologist cap here for a second and say that Adam Ondra, sometimes he seems a little irritable, right? You can get happy Adam who shows up to a comp, he's in a great mood, he sends everything, and he's just smiling the whole time he takes 1st place. And then you get mad and irritable Adam, who's the type of guy that if you put a cup on the coffee table without a coaster, he's going to scream at you like he's doing the crux move of silence. Now, Adam's biggest benefit to his advantage, besides being the greatest climber of all time, is that he's just a double threat, right? Adam is one of the only climbers in the World Championship, in the Olympics, anything, that can score 100 points in bouldering and in lead. The thing with Tomoa Narasaki is you might be a huge Tomoa fan, I am. He can get 100 points in bouldering any day, but he will never get 100 points on the lead wall. Tomoa Narasaki is not going to get 100 points on the lead wall, and if he does, that just means that Adam Ondra is pretty much guaranteed to get 100 points on the lead wall. I think these double threats, the people who can score 100 points in both categories, are easily the easiest to predict, taking 1st and 2nd place, which leads to my 1st place prediction, Jakob Schubert. There is no greater threat in men's competition climbing right now than Jakob Schubert. Jakob has proven to be a top-level boulderer and sport climber. I was just talking about how Adam Ondra was one of 2 athletes that had a chance of scoring 100 points in both categories. Jakob Schubert not only has a chance, but a good chance of doing this. Jakob Schubert's probably the only competitor I can realistically see in the Olympics topping all 4 boulders and topping the lead wall. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do that. That would still be extremely unlikely, but if anyone was to do that, it would be Jakob Schubert. Jakob has been on an absolute tear lately. He is terrifying to watch in competition climbing. He's like the doom guy just coming through and wreaking havoc. So here's my overall prediction for the Olympic finals. I'm really excited to see how accurate I am. Now moving on to my predictions for the women's. In 8th place in the finals, we have Erin McNeice of Great Britain. Not only does Erin have a good amount of consistency between her lead and her bouldering, enough to make her a pretty big threat, but she also just impressed me in the Olympic qualifier series. I hadn't really seen her climb a lot before, and I gotta say, she looked like a pretty big threat. Next up, my prediction for 7th place in the finals, we have Oriane Berton of France. It seems probably low for a lot of you because she does perform at a very high level in competition rock climbing. But just like my 7th place prediction for the men's, Toby Roberts, Oriane is a wild card. She is as wild card as wild card gets. Oriane, I could see her topping all 4 boulders and the lead wall, as much as I could see her topping no boulders and making it like 5 moves up the lead wall. She is the most unpredictable competition climber there is. So because of that, I'm going to say she could take 1st place in the Olympics. I would not be surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if she ends up at like the bottom of the finals. Next up in 6th place, my prediction is, let me read the name, Zhang Yuotong of China. Not only did Zhang win the Asian qualifier, which is pretty impressive on its own. There's a lot of competitive climbers coming out of Asia, but she's also just consistent across bouldering and lead. I don't think she's a big enough threat in either of them to be a real contender for the podium. I could be wrong, but I'm going to say 5th place seems about right. Coming in 5th place in the Olympic finals, my next prediction is Miho Nanaka. Now, I know this seems a bit outlandish of a prediction since she took silver in the last Olympics, but you have to remember she did pretty well on speed climbing, which bumped her up quite a bit, and speed climbing is no longer in, and Miho does tend to fall behind quite a bit on the lead wall. Now, you could say this is similar to Tomoa, where she is a huge threat in bouldering like Tomoa is, but she is not as big of a threat, and there are other competitors like Janja Garnbret who make it so that her lead in bouldering probably won't be enough to compensate for her poor performance on the lead wall. My next prediction, coming in 4th place, is Brooke Rabbitou of the United States. I think Brooke Rabbitou has a good chance of also making the podium, but her main issue is going to be consistency. She tends to have like slips and fumbles here and there. She just hasn't quite worked into being a very consistent competition climber yet. She has some competitions where she is like the biggest threat you could imagine in a competition climb, and then other competitions where she just kind of falls off the radar. Everybody's going to have inconsistency here and there, but I'm not fully confident in Brooke's ability to guarantee a slot in the podium. Now, this is where things get really competitive. Our podium placers, I am pretty confident that these 3 are going to be in the podium no matter what. For 3rd place, taking bronze medal, my prediction is Jessica Pills. Jessica Pills is extremely consistent. She always performs well in bouldering and lead. I think that makes her a huge threat. Basically, you have to have a really good day to beat Jessica. Jessica is always going to have a day where she performs and makes the podium. I don't think the chances of Jessica performing poorly at the Olympics are higher than any other competitor, so I'd say that the only chance competitors like Brooke Rabbitou or Miho have of beating Jessica is if they perform at just their absolute 100%. Also, I'll remind you that Jessica, if you take out speed climbing from the last Olympics, took 2nd place in the bouldering and lead combined, losing only to Janja Garnbret, so there's actually a good chance that Jessica also maybe gets 2nd or even 1st place. Now, coming in 2nd place, my prediction for the silver medal is Natalia Grossman. It is my opinion that the only other female competitor in competition rock climbing that can go head-to-head with Janja Garnbret, that really stands a chance of taking down Janja Garnbret, is Natalia Grossman. Natalia is extremely capable of topping every boulder that the route setters put in front of her, and also extremely capable of topping the lead wall, which the only other competitor that I would say really I would put in the same level as her of being able to do that would maybe be Jessica Pills. But I think Natalia has proven just a little bit more to me that she stands a better chance of doing that. And this also leads into my obvious choice for who I think is going to win gold for the women's, Janja Garnbret. I don't think anyone in the past 4 years has proven to me that they would be a safer bet for gold than Janja Garnbret. Nobody's really proven that they can go head-to-head with her on a consistent basis and win. She's basically like the Ricky Bobby of women's rock climbing right now.
Well, Dick, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. And nobody can hang with my stuff.
Like the other competitors I talk about being double threats, Janja not only has the best chance of topping all 4 boulders and the lead wall, but she actually has a good chance of doing that. She's the only competitor across men's and women's that I can say that about, where it wouldn't even be shocking if she topped everything. That's insane. That's even an actual possibility is crazy. So here's my overall list of predictions for the women's. Once again, excited to see how this goes. Mostly I just wanted to make this video to help inform everybody to what's going on at the Olympics and who's going, because it's really hard to find all the information. But also, I just think it's fun to have people giving predictions and things like that. You see that a lot in other sports like the NFL and the NBA, or I'm sure rugby or whatever you guys watch in Europe. But I think it's fun when people make predictions like this and they're completely wrong, and then people can look at it later and be like, nobody thought I'd make it, but here I am. Or it'd just be cool if I end up being 100% right, and then I don't know how it works, but somebody's got to owe me money. If I'm 100% right, something cool, there's got to be some cool prize for that. Anyway, those are all of the qualifiers for the Olympics, as well as my predictions. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know who you guys think are going to qualify. I know a bunch of you are just going to be like, ugh, you picked the most obvious people. You picked the world champions and stuff. Yeah, I'm basing off statistics, all right? I'm trying to be as accurate as possible in the list. This is like my March Madness over here, okay? Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.